Education USA advisor. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jackson Cruz. I am the Education USA advisor in Managua, Nicaragua. It's a great pleasure to have all of you guys with us this afternoon. Today, we'll talk about a hot topic, mastering the CSS profile. So it is with great pleasure that we have Sarah Beth Holman, Director, Financial Aid Solutions from College Board. But first, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what Education USA is for those of you guys that may not know what this network is all about. We are a Department of State network sponsored by the Department of State. We provide accurate, comprehensive, and current information to all students that want to learn about the different processes, documents that you may need in order to apply to any college or university in the United States of America. And our services are completely free. And so why do we need this? There are about 4,700 universities accredited in the United States and close to 1,200 colleges. So there's a lot of information that you need to get ready for. And in order to do this, our network has 5 different steps in order for you guys to get ready. And they can be summed up in the 5 steps to US studies. The first one being researching your options, from choosing that right university is the right fit for you, that has the right programs or major, academic programs and extracurricular activities per se. We also help out in how to finance your studies, looking for different scholarships or financial aid and the different requirements that you need to meet in order to apply for merit-based scholarships, for example, all right, or talent-based. We also can help you out when it comes to completing your application. This can be a long process and it could take up to more than 8 hours from all the different documents and letters of recommendation, for example, that you need to upload on some of the most common apps. And the 4th step can be summed up when at the end, applying for your student visa. We do not have any influence when it comes to whether or not you acquire a visa. This is merely a decision by the consulate at each country. However, we can provide you with tips on how to organize different documentation, questions, and so that the process can flow. The last step is preparing for departure. For example, what things to take, what not to take, what is best to buy in the United States, for example. And so this is the last step once you have been admitted and once you have acquired your student visa. We usually get a lot of questions when it comes to the network and as to whether or not Education USA has scholarships. At this point, we do not have any scholarships when it comes to, for example, tuition or some of the most common fees that some of the institutions have. However, we can advise you on how to prepare to apply at different institutions. Can you help me find a short-term study abroad program or any internship? This is a process that a lot of students can follow through once they have been admitted at any college or university in the United States. So you have to follow the different guidelines and the different steps. And once you have done that, you're pretty much can get into, for example, an OPT, which is a program that you can do once you have been admitted and you are a current student at the universities. Are there any opportunities to improve my English? Just know that in order to get accepted at any college or university in the US, you must have an advanced English level, since you need to take some of the, for example, English proficiency exams or any other standardized tests, and these are completely in English. However, there are some institutions that may offer a English immersion program, and you could apply and just know that there may be some fees involved. Do we have any partnerships or agreements with specific colleges and universities? The answer is no. We represent the 4,700 universities that are accredited in the United States. So we are completely unbiased and we represent all of them. Now, I want you guys to go ahead and complete a short poll that we have at this moment. So go ahead and we're gonna take a moment for you guys to answer the questions. All right, so we are getting some of the results so far. And we're gonna give it a few minutes. All right, so we have quite students from Canada. All right, we have, well, let's skip it, you know, we're gonna give it some more time. All right, so 15% of our audience right now are from Canada, 24% from Mexico, about 51% from the Caribbean, and 51% from Central America. So that's a lot. And the other question that we have in our short poll is, have you started to fill out the CSS profile? And we have that about 64% have not started. So this is your chance to learn more on how to complete, how to fill it out, and how to be successful in this endeavor, in this task. So important when it comes to financial aid, so important when it comes to having this documentation ready and on time now that some of the deadlines are approaching as we begin the admissions process. All right. And now, with no further ado, I would like to introduce Sarah Holman, who is the director for the College Board, who will be talking to us about how to complete the CSS profile. Thank you, Sarah, for taking this afternoon to talk to our students today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Let me just bring my presentation up here. All right. So you can see what we'll be doing is talking over the CSS profile. I was happy to see, it's nice to see that almost 40% of you have already started it. So hopefully this will maybe answer some questions you have. And for those of you that haven't, we'll provide that guidance you need in order to complete it and answer questions that you might have about what it's going to entail. So let's get started here. And so what is CSS Profile? So before we get into how to complete the profile, let's talk about what it is and why you might be asked to complete it and send it to schools. CSS Profile is a comprehensive financial aid application used by colleges, universities, and some scholarship organizations to determine a student's eligibility for need-based aid. One of the great things about CSS Profile is that because it's used by so many institutions, it allows students to complete one application that they can send electronically to multiple schools, rather than having to complete separate financial aid forms for each school where they're applying. For international applicants, CSS Profile allows families to complete the application in their country's currency. This means that you don't have to spend time converting your financial information from your currency to US dollars. Instead, when you submit the application, the College Board does the currency conversion so that when your schools get the information, everything is in US dollars. So one thing you want to make sure you know is whether the schools you're applying to accept or require CSS Profile. The first place and the best place to check for that is with the school where you're applying. They should have that information on their website, letting you know what you need to do, but you also can check on our website. You go to cssprofile.org and you click in where the check participating schools and scholarships, you'll see a search come up where it gives a list of all the schools, but you can choose to limit your search on, you see what I have circled in orange there, CSS Profile for international students. You can say yes, and it'll bring up the list of schools that accept it for international students. The CSS Profile does have a cost. The initial cost for each application is $25, and that includes sending the report to one school. For each additional school that you want to send your report to, it is $16. If your biological or adoptive parents are not living together in the same household, schools may require you to submit what we call a non-custodial profile. That way they can collect information about both households. I'll get into more detail about that in a few slides, but I did want to note that if you have to submit a non-custodial profile, that's going to be a flat fee of $25, and that will go to any of the schools that require you to submit it for that $25. Payment for the CSS profile is made online by credit card. So profile is easy to get to. Just typing in cssprofile.org in your browser will take you directly to the application website. But before we dig into the application itself, I want to do a quick tour of the website to let you know about the resources that are available to help you in completing the application. We're going to start. We see I've got the menu on the top, and when we go under Get Started, it's going to take you to a list of helpful tips and resources and instructions. So you can use the tutorials and guides to assist you, and you don't have to complete the profile all in one sitting. You can save it and go back to it later simply by going back to cssprofile.org, clicking on Sign In, and entering your College Board student account credentials. In addition, when you do complete your profile, it's very helpful to have the forms that you need to complete it. And the most important things are going to be the financial information. So for both student and parents, you're going to want most recent tax, income, investment, and banking documents. Okay, clicking through the tabs at the top of the page, next, we're going to see what other things are available. There is a page specific for international applicants. You can see here, it talks about what you need to know about completing the profile as an international applicant. We also have a page for Spanish-speaking applicants. And then moving on, this is where I'm going to get into what I mentioned before about information for divorced or separated parents. So this page will, I'm going to go to another slide that's going to talk about the information here and kind of refer back to this, but this is where you can see where you can click on to get more information. So we're going to talk about, give you some guidance and refer to the guidance that is mentioned here as well. So as I explained, when reviewing CSS profile fees, if your biological or adoptive parents are separated, divorced, or were never married and are not living together in the same residence, you may be required to submit 2 CSS profile applications. One will be for your custodial parents. This is the parent you live with most, or if you're living equally with both parents, this is the parent that provides the most financial support. The other application that you'll complete, which we refer to as the non-custodial application, will be for your other biological or adoptive parents. It's important to note that only one CSS profile application can be done under the student's College Board account. In most cases, the information for the custodial parent's household is submitted under that student's College Board account. The non-custodial parent then creates their own College Board account under their name and completes a CSS profile for the student under their College Board account. That gets a little bit confusing, but again, there are resources on the website that explain that. And I'm just going to scroll into the next page, and I just did a little screenshot of the form. So there are PDFs you can look at. And the one is, creating an account for parents' use, and that's typically what will happen in the case where both the custodial and non-custodial parent need to complete a profile. Then another question that comes up is, what if I can't supply parent information? Either I don't know where my parents are, or whatever that situation might be. There is a waiver form that's on the website that you can download and complete, and that's something you need to submit to the schools where you're applying, because they will make that determination as to whether or not they will waive that for you. And they may require some additional documentation in order to do that. So now that we've walked through the website resources, that was a quick walkthrough, so please, spend some time going back. There are some different tutorials and stuff that will help you. But now we're going to actually go into the application, and we're basically going to walk through the whole thing. So you see, the first thing you're going to want to do is click on the yellow button to sign into the fall 2022-23 application. Now this takes you to a sign-in page, and you can see 2 parts to it. So if you have a College Board account, you want to use those credentials to log in. If you may have a College Board account if you use it for the SAT, for advanced placement, Big Future. Those are some of the more common things where you may have already created an account. If you already have an account, use that account. You do not want to create another one. You can go ahead and use that to start your profile. If you don't have an account, what you're going to do is click on the Create Account process, and I am going to walk you through that for those of you that don't already have a College Board account. So when you click on that, we're going to look at, I kind of already covered that if you already have one, don't create another one. And again, this should be the student's account, not the parent's account, unless of course it's non-custodial and they have to. But let's just say in this case, it's the custodial, we're doing this for the student. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna walk you through, I created a student and I went through and did a whole profile for you, for this student, so I could do this for you. So our student in this case name is Ashima. So let's just see, she fills out the application. You can see for the ID, kind of going through everything. So name, gender, date of birth, email address, and high school graduation or equivalent. Okay, so you'll start by filling in those. Next, it's going to ask for some demographic information. So for students living outside the US, what you want to do is click on the button that you live outside the US instead of entering a zip code in that field. And then what you can do is you can try to search for your school, but a lot of international schools are not listed here. So if you don't find it, you can click on the box that your high school or your school is not listed. And then after that, what you're going to do is create a username, password, and security question. Once you have that done, then you'll be asked to enter your address. Okay, so obviously you're going to indicate you're outside the United States, and then you're going to fill in the demographic information. Note that mobile number, putting your phone number in, that is optional. You don't have to complete that, but you do want to, if you enter the number, make sure you indicate whether or not you want to get text messages from the College Board. And then you also will need to enter whether or not you want to get information about other College Board programs. So you'll need to click that if you do want to receive that information. Next, it's going to take you into parent information. This is optional. You do not have to enter parent information. If you do, you can indicate whether you want parents, copied on messages to you, whether you want them to get the monthly newsletter. But once you've made that determination, what you need to do is review the terms and conditions and accept them. And after that, then what you'll do is you will click next to move into the step of reviewing the information you entered. So the information, the key information that you entered will come up here for you to review. Obviously, if you need to make any edits, you click edit and go back in and do that. Otherwise, once you are sure the information is accurate, you click confirm to create an account. So this creates your account, but before you can go back to the profile screen, this is going to come up. All you need to do is answer yes or no, click continue. Then we're actually going, now you can see on the top of the screen, we're back in the CSS profile. The first time you log in to CSS Profile, you will be presented with the terms of service. You must go through those, and then once you are okay with everything, you will click agree. And then from there, you'll be able to actually move into the application. This is where we want to be. Click here to get started. So you're going to click to begin your profile for 2022-23. The CSS profile takes you right into the profile application. And what you're going to see is on the left side of the screen, you have a navigation pane. This allows you to see where in the application you are, and it also allows you to move back and forth through the application. So you won't notice it now, but as we go through, you'll think, oh, look, I'm almost at the end, and then it's going to expand and there's going to be more things. So it will get bigger as you go through, but that does make it easier to go back and forth through it if you need to pop back to another section to answer something. So the first section, the questions are all about you, the student. And if you aren't sure what to put, now obviously this is your first name, this is an easy one, but for any field, for most fields, there is a help box. Once you click in that field, you'll see that yellow help box pop up that will provide you guidance as to how to answer that field. Okay, so let's see how our applicant completes this field. See, putting in her name, and you'll notice this information, some of this was already entered in the College Board student account, and this is where it would be different. It could potentially that, they could do a different email address or something like that when they're entering it here. Student will select their marital status. And the other important thing to note is you can save and continue at any point through this. I mentioned that before, that you don't have to do it all at once. So your application is saved as you move through it, which is great because if something happens and you lose internet connection, you don't lose everything that you've already entered. So the next question is going to be where the student lives. So this is the country where the student lives. This should be your permanent address. Okay, it could be different from where you receive mail. Then once you enter the country where you live, it's going to ask you for your citizenship status. So either US citizen, an eligible non-citizen, which is typically if you are a permanent resident of the United States, Canadian citizen, or other. Okay, so you'll answer that question. And then you're going to be asked about your visa status, what your visa status will be once you are in school, what you anticipate that to be. Next page, once you have that filled out, the next page is going to take you in to ask whether you, the student, have legal dependents. What I really want to point out on this is if you notice our applicant's name, in this case is Ashna, and you can see that questions are now personalized for information. So it lets you know who they're asking the question about. So pay attention to that, especially when you start to enter parent information, because it will tell you which parent's information you need to enter in the application. It will specify by parent name, just like it does here in the student's case. And then sometimes when it wants information for both parents, it will just say, for Ashna's parents, answer these questions instead of each individual parent separately. So just pay attention to that. That way you're answering the question about the right person. So again, here you're going to be asked to enter address information. The top part is the permanent address. So this is your permanent place of residence. And then on the bottom, after you enter your permanent address, it's going to ask you, is your mailing address the same? If it's not, then what you do, if you say yes, it's just going to default that information. It'll just autofill that in so the two match. If it's not the same, indicate no and enter in your mailing address information. Once you have all of that answered, it's going to summarize it for you, your demographics, and then it's going to ask you to check the box to confirm it, and then you would save and continue. Okay. The next part of the application is reporting parent information. There's a parent grid you're going to fill out. So before we jump into that and I show you the screen, I want to cover a few things about reporting parents. Profile actually makes it pretty easy, especially when there are unique and different situations. So all applicants will be required to enter parental information. You can report up to 4 parents or parental figures. For each person that you list in the parent grid, you're going to indicate their relationship to you as your mother, father, stepmother, stepfather, legal guardian, or other. So for example, if you live with a grandparent or other relative who is your legal guardian, you would select legal guardian. If you live with someone other than your parents, or your parent, or someone other than your parent or grandparents, or the relative who is not your legal guardian, then you would select other. If you list only one mother or father, you're going to be asked to indicate the parent's other status. And I do have a capture of that screen coming up, so you'll see what that is. So now let's actually look at what the parent grid looks like. So you can see here, it says list all the parents below, and indicates, like I said, you can have 4 parent relationships. And so we said list, biological, adoptive, step parents, parents, partner, and legal guardians. Okay, so that lets you know who you should report on this form. Now, if there's a case where you have, you've already entered 2 parents and you need to enter another parent, you click on the add a parent button and you'll see the line opens up to add another parent. You put the information in and you can select your relationship to that other parent. The next set of screens I'm going to show you is what the questions are that you will get depending on how your parent grid, how many parents you list in your parent grid. Okay. If you report 1 or 2 parents in the relationship grid, you'll be asked to report the marital status of the parent or parents you listed. Okay. And then it will move on with other questions about those parents. If you report only 1 parent, you'll be asked to indicate the status of your other parent. So as I mentioned previously, you'll have a list of choices you can pick from. And also be aware that schools may ask for additional documentation about this. So you don't need to proactively send it to them, but if they request information, you may need to provide them with additional documentation to confirm this with them. Okay. Now, if more than 2 parents are listed, this is going to be your next question. So you're going to be asked of the parents listed who you live with. And then once you did that, then it's whose information are you providing on this form? Okay, so that could be the same, it could be different. And then once you indicate whose information you're reporting on the form, you're going to be asked what the marital status of that parent or parents are whose information you're putting on the form. Okay, so it really walks you through all of it. And again, there's that help text that will come up as well. Okay, this question is very important because it determines the set of questions you're going to get and whether they pertain to the US tax system or whether you get the questions that are designed for international applicants that aren't specific to the US tax system. The country you select here should be that of your parents' permanent home address. All right. The next set of questions are going to be about your academic information. And they are going to include your current academic status for the current year, as well as your upcoming status once you start college, and including the schools that you want to send your CSS profile application to. So let's start, and you'll get a drop-down menu. So you'll choose your current year in school. So the year you're in school right now for this current academic year, you indicate that. And then for this section, you search for your high school. So first you're going to click on the high school search box. A search box is going to pop up where you can search for your high school. Okay, note the message on here that indicates that if you're an international student, only search by name. And if the name doesn't display it, then you should select not listed. Okay, And in this case, because you can't search by state, you're going to do none of the above. And then you can actually put in the name, search for it. And in this case, we searched just by name of a school. It didn't come up. So we are selecting not listed as the school. So now we reported information about our current academic status. We are going to indicate information about our upcoming status. So first we search for the college or programs where we want to send our application. And by doing that, you can search by CSS school code number, which should be your school will probably give you that, or it's on their website. It's okay if you don't have that. You can also search by the name of the college, or you can search by the state. Be very careful when you search by name or even by state, because some of them can come up, there may be different schools, like in some cases where you might have like a Northwestern College and a Northwestern University. They are different schools. Or searching for some of the bigger schools like Columbia University there's their undergrad program, but then there's Columbia University School of Medicine or Columbia School of General Studies, and they're all different. So you want to be really careful. That's why it's best if you do have the CSS code number to enter that. That way you know for sure you're getting the right school, you're sending it to the correct school. When you do the search and a school comes up, in this case, I did a search. This is just our test school that we use for things, so College of Sample. You want to note that it indicates whether or not the school accepts profile from all applicants within a population or only from certain applicants. So you can see here, College of Sample, they accept profile for domestic undergraduate applicants. So that means they accept from entering, returning, and transferring. For the graduate applicants, they only accept from entering students. And then we look at international undergraduate, they accept it, but international graduate, they don't accept. So be very aware of this because you certainly don't want to spend money to send your application to a school that doesn't accept it and they're not going to use it. Once you've selected the school or schools, for each one, you're going to have to indicate what your year in school will be at that school for the next academic year. And then you also need to indicate, if you know your school ID there, you can enter that. And also you need to indicate your admission type. So if you're applying early action, early decision, or regular decision at that school. This isn't imperative if you're not sure, just, you can just put one in. It's okay if you don't know the exact answer and you have to guess at that one. Okay, I mentioned listing your country of residence is important for the parent's country of residence. This might be one of the other very critical questions you answer. I indicated earlier that you can complete the profile in the currency of the country where you live or the currency that you choose to use for this. So this is where you are going to indicate the currency that you will use to report all of your financial information. It's recommended that you use the currency that's used for almost all of your financial documents, but ultimately you can choose what currency you want to use. Once you select a currency, make sure you report all financial information in that currency, because when we get that information, we're going to convert everything into US dollars. So if you indicate that you're using one currency and then report some of it in another currency, it's going to be an incorrect conversion, and then the school's not going to have the correct financial information for you. Okay, now that we've got through that, you're going to be asked to enter information about your parents' education and employment. So questions, this set of questions that are going to be asked separate for each parent, but you'll notice at the top, it indicates the name of the parent that it's asking the question about. So that makes it easy to make sure you're answering the questions about the parent, the correct parent. Okay, so I just scroll down so you can see exactly what's on that page. Then after you put the information in about that parent, you're going to be asked for your grandparents. So for what is their tax return status? And you'll note in the yellow box, I made sure I brought up the help text on this one, that if the student's parents' country tax year does not follow the calendar year, report information from the last tax year that ended before April 1st, 2021. Okay, so that provides you guidance that if your tax year doesn't follow the traditional calendar year, what information you should use and gather in order to complete the rest of the information on the form. So in this case, if filed a return, you want to indicate that you filed that, or whether it's estimated or you won't be filing a return, whether it's because you don't need to or your country doesn't require it. You indicated that, it's going to ask you for the type of return you filed. So in this case, our applicant said her parents completed a tax return, and it's going to indicate that it is a other non-US tax return. Okay? And once that's indicated, goes up to the page and where you can fill in the information about that new non-US tax return. You'll note, again, I circled, pointed out in orange. Here's where it again gives those instructions for what you're supposed to report for income if your tax year follows if it's other than a calendar year. Okay. And this just gives you a whole rundown of the field. Note that in the last field where it asks for all taxes, mandatory withholdings, sure you pay attention to that. That's supposed to be kind of a combination of all those things. You want to make sure you include all of that, because anything that's taxes is considered an offset against income. So you definitely want to make sure you include everything that it's asking for there. And then just looking for total income, you can see that, we're not following it's not following, this is where it's not following what the questions would be for a US tax filer. It's really trying to get ultimately at what total income is. So that's what you'll be asked to report with when you're filling out all these forms. That's ultimately what we're trying to get for the schools to have. Okay, and again, you have that help text on all of these. So use that to help guide you through it. After you enter that in the information that would be potentially most likely from tax returns or equivalent, we're going to ask about other income and benefits that you might have. So you want to go through and answer this set of questions as well. And if there's any housing, food allowances, if there's income from other members of the household, money given or paid on your behalf. And you move that, save and continue. And then the next set of questions is going to be about your other year income and benefits. So in addition to 2020 income information you reported, you're asked to report your parents' expected income for 2021. So note the question circled in orange. If your family's income was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, you need to select yes from the dropdown, and in the special circumstance section at the end of the application, which we'll see later on, you include details about how the pandemic has impacted their income. Then if we go down to the next one, if your parents anticipate a significant change in income between 2021 and 2022, select yes from the dropdown. And then what will happen if you select yes there, you're going to be given another page will come up that asks, you see here where it asks on the top, you're giving the parents 2021 income and benefits. You're going to have almost an identical screen, but it's going to ask about estimates for 2022. So we really try to capture a comprehensive look of the family. So we're not just looking at what happened in 1 year. We want to know, are there changes or are there things that are impacting the family? Because that's important to schools and really getting a well-rounded picture to be able to assess your financial need. Next questions ask about child support, and they pertain to child support received by the household or paid out of the household. And this should be about child support received for anyone in the household, as well as child support paid by either of the parents. Okay. And you also note that child support paid is looking at, they want to know if you received it for 2020 or 21, where the child support received is only looking at whether you received it for 2020. So you answer those questions. If you answer yes to either of those, you'll get another question that asks you to report an amount. Next set of questions pertain to where you and your family live. You've already reported your permanent mailing address as well as your parents' country of residence, but here you're going to report your parents' complete home address. Okay, so you do that. Then it's going to ask you whether your parents own or rent the home where you live, or if your family lives with others, or if your family lives in housing provided by an employer. Okay. How you answer this question is going to going to determine what the next question is that you receive. And what I've done here is I've captured all of those questions. So you can see the set of questions you will get based on that. So it's just more information, additional details about that housing. You know, if you're making a monthly payment, what that payment is, or just details about the situation. Again, this is all to try to get a comprehensive, full picture of a family situation. Next, we're going to ask questions about assets that belong to your parents. If you say yes to either of these questions here, assets or investments or assets they own but are in the names of children, you will have, you'll be asked more information about these. So let's go to the next screen and we see all applicants are going to be asked about the current amount in cash, savings, checking, and deposit accounts. However, the question about the current market value of investments appeared because our applicant said yes in the previous slide that they had income or they had money in investments. Okay, so that's the only reason that one appeared. And if the family, they will ask questions about, you know, does the parent own other real estate? So this is other than the home. Okay, so not the primary home, but other real estate. And here they're going to enter in that real estate information. And if they're going to enter how many properties, so they have to put here. And then what's going to happen is if they have properties, it's going to ask this set of details for every property that the parents own. So if they do 3 properties, it's going to ask this set of questions 3 times so they can report about each of those properties. Same thing with the business farm. If you indicate that you own or operate a business or farm, you're going to be asked to indicate the number of businesses that you own. So in this case, our applicant said they own 2 businesses. Then they're going to be asked to provide details about each of the businesses that they own. And you can see I'm just scrolling down to the bottom so you can see all the information. If we go up, you can see it also say that the business, in this case, I just named it business 1, but if it was named, you know, ABC Toy Shop, then on the top, it would say, you know, please provide the following for ABC Toy Shop. And then the next one would be whatever the name of that business is. So again, it personalizes it so you know what it's asking about. Okay, after you've entered that information, it's going to ask information about expenses, particularly medical dental expenses, repayment of student loan debt, and then alimony. If you check any boxes indicating you have this expense, you'll get more questions asking for an amount. Okay, so you'll need to report the annual amount that you spend on those expenses. This set of questions right here are asked only of international applicants and pertain to your family's annual cost of living. Okay, so you want to make sure you complete that information so the school gets that. Now that you've reported income, assets, we've got all that, the other thing to fill out the picture of your whole family is who else is living in your parents' household and being financially supported by your parents. So in this case, since our applicant has already answered questions about herself and her parents, she doesn't need to re-enter that. So people you've already provided information about will show up here, and it tells you only enter information about other people in your parents' household. So let's take a look at that page. We go to a dependent summary screen. And in this grid, you need to include anyone other than you, the student, and your parents who live in your parents' household and receive more than half of their support from your parents. So in this case, our applicant has a younger sibling, so that's the information they report here. The drop-down menu relationships, there's a variety of ones. There's even an other, but there are, I think like grandparents might be an option. So there are options. And again, like I said, there's other that you can indicate there as well. So when you indicate a sibling, what you're going to see come up is additional details that they want to know. So what was their year in school? What is their upcoming year in school? Do they attend private school? And then what school are they attending and what is the cost? So you're going to have to answer this information about any dependents that are entered. And then we've got through all of that information. We've pretty much completed everything we need for the parents' household. So now we're going to be looking for the student, and you'll be reporting student income and assets. So starting with information about the student's income with the tax return status. If the student files a tax return, okay, this is what it might look like. And this is the set of questions they will get. So income earned from work, interest, dividends, and then any mandatory taxes, withholding, and then untaxed income. What you're going to see different here is if the student didn't file a tax return, it's all pretty much the same, but they're not asked about any mandatory tax withholdings, because if they didn't file taxes, they wouldn't have those tax withholdings. Okay, so this is where the student will report their income from 2020. Then the next set of questions, so in addition to providing previous income, you're going to provide information about your future income. So during the 2022-23 school year, when you're in college, what do you anticipate to be your income that you earn, as well as any untaxed income or benefits that you expect to receive during that time? So fill that out the best you're able to. And then we move into other resources. So read each question here carefully and include the amounts you expect to receive from any of these sources. In the first field, report the amount your parent planned to contribute toward your educational expenses in 2022-23. Okay, and the other ones, just follow the guides, read what it says. The last one, if you have relatives that are going to be providing support, you'll provide that information as well. This next set of questions seems kind of duplicative because that first set is asked of all applicants, where this is asked only of international applicants. So answer the question based on what you know on the date you complete the application. You can always let schools know if you find out about additional funding or something changes. Student, in addition to student income, students then going to be asked to complete some asset information. This follows the same rules as the other. If you check a box, it's going to ask you information about that. So in this case, if our student said, yes, I have investments, it's going to ask everyone for cash, checking, savings, but investments or the trust question, it's only going to ask that if you indicate you have investments of that type. Same thing, it's going to ask those same questions about real estate and business. If you indicate you have one, it's going to ask for the number and then details about them. If you don't have anything, don't check anything and you won't be asked those questions. Now, this is an important part. This is your opportunity to share any special circumstances that may impact your family's financial situation. If one or more of these is applicable to you, you can check multiple boxes, and you also then you want to make sure that you provide an explanation. So this is where we talked about, like, if the pandemic has impacted income, check that and put that information. If your family is providing, elder care to help support grandparents who aren't living with you or other relatives not living with you, anything like that, you want to make sure you provide that information here. And we can see now, if you click one of those and it goes down and gives you that space where you can provide up to 2,000 characters explaining that situation. Okay. And then once you have all of that filled in, you get to the application review. So it's going to go through, make sure you filled in everything correctly. We see that full navigation pane where you can go back into something, expand it out, and click into something specific if you need to change something. But otherwise, what it will do is bring up a PDF of your application that you can review and you can save if you want to have for your records. You can also access it after you submit it to see that PDF. But you need to go through everything. And once you confirmed it's okay, you'll get the question up to certify your application. So read that. You can click certify, save, and continue. And next you'll be presented with the payment screen. And this is where it tells you, the application fee and the school fee. So that was that $25 to send it to one school. And here's where you can pay by credit or debit card. In some cases, there may be some schools that offer fee payment codes to assist if a student is unable to pay for it. That depends, that's on a school by school basis. But otherwise you pay by credit card, you go through, and after you submit everything, this is what you're going to see. This is your CSS Profile Dashboard. So you can see that your application was submitted. You'll see there's an orange box there, CSS Profile Correction. If you made a mistake, you can submit a correction. However, you can submit only one correction per year. So, and it's very limited on what you can submit. A lot of it is just kind of providing just information and explanation about that. And there's some things you don't need to do, a correction for. But if you found out, you realize you didn't report one of your family members you should have, or information about one of your parents' businesses, something like that, you want to do the correction and get that submitted. There's also the orange box for submitting or adding a college or program. If you want to send your results to another school, you click there, enter their information, pay the fee, and submit that. Up all my time. So I'm going to move into, if there are any questions, open that up.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Wow, that's a lot of information for our international students, and we do have quite a few questions from our audience. Okay. And I'm going ahead and go for it. Let's see. For the section, parents non-US tax return. My parents are business owners. Should I leave the part of compensation from employers blank since they don't have a boss?
Yep, you would put that under the business income or income earned from business. So you would put that there.
All right, thank you. Do my parents need to make a College Board profile, or can I fill out the entire application by myself?
You can fill it all up by yourself under your, if you have a College Board student account, you can complete everything under your student account.
If my parents are separated and one of them does not provide any monetary support to my family, how do I report that?
You can, on the profile form, when you do the one for your other parent, you will indicate, that the parent, whatever that status is, and you can try to, you'll most likely need to try to get that parent to complete the profile. And if you can't, you may have to submit a request for a waiver where you'll have to explain like special circumstances as to why. So their parent not contributing is not a reason for a waiver, that they won't contribute or they don't contribute. It has to be typically a special situation. Their refusal or unwillingness to contribute is not, typically will not be accepted as a reason to waive it. But the best thing to do is talk to the schools about it. They'll help you with that.
Is it necessary to submit that non-custodial parent profile, even though he does not provide monetary support?
In most cases, yes, it will be. It goes with the concept of you divorce your parents divorce each other, not the student. So it doesn't mean they don't still have they shouldn't still be supporting their children. Of course, there are always special circumstances that, again, you can talk to a school about, but it ultimately will be up to the school.
I have one that could go right into the subsection to that particular question. What if one of the parents has gone MIA and the student does not know where he or she lives, and they don't know anything from that particular parent. Right. They don't know where he
then there is a place on the application where you indicate that you don't know where they are, and that's what you indicate.
Thank you.
And again, that's where a school may ask for documentation of that.
What if my parents are unemployed and we are living on a day-to-day basis and our income is not stable? What do we do?
You fill out the application with the information based on your most recent tax year. And then if things have changed, you just report that the best you're able to on the current situation, and then use that special circumstance section if you need to provide more detail about the situation.
Following that on the same question, what if the country where I live does not file tax return or anything similar to that effect? What should I do?
Then what you should do is look at your income, and it'll ultimately be up to you to decide whether you want to use your income based on a calendar year or income based on, look at like April 1st to March 31st. Just make sure you use a consistent, a 12-month period, and provide your income from that period of time.
What happens if my mother is an informal worker and therefore she does not pay taxes? That we just answered that question, okay, I guess. Yes. If one of my parents passed away, do I have to fill in the tax questions?
So when you fill out the parent, what you'll do is there is an option for your parent that you can put in your parent information, and you can enter deceased, so that you won't have to provide obviously any information for that parent then.
Okay, so let's see. What is a student's CBF aid exactly?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What is the student, hold on. What is a student's CBF in AID exactly?
Oh, okay. CB Pane ID, I think, is what it is.
Yes.
So it's your College Board Pane ID. So once you complete the profile, and you'll see that, I think I had it on one of the screens, you'll see a CB Pane ID, and it's your identifier with the College Board. And that's what you'll use. Like if the school requires IDOC for you to submit documents, that's that identifier that you'll use. It's just your record with the College Board and with profile.
Thank you. What is a school's assigned ID? What if the country, or what if the school is not listed?
You mean to schools to submit the profile to?
Yes.
If the school is not listed that you want to send your profile to, that means they don't accept it and you can't send it to them.
All right. I enter my home country zip code, but it says it's invalid. I'm in Canada. Is that format different from the US?
It might be different. That's a good one for something like that to contact our help, the support for CSS Profile, and our customer support can help with that.
Thank you. Where can I add information about bank loans and credit cards?
That would be in the special circumstance section.
All right.
So in that last section.
All right, thank you. That income from work must be net or gross?
Income from work should be your gross income.
If both parents are unemployed and my siblings are the providers for the household, is it necessary to report their income? Where should I report it?
That would be on, so what you would do is it's on income from others in the household. That's where you would report the income from the siblings, or the support and income that those siblings are providing to the household. And then you also would probably, in that case, I would also include information in the special circumstances explaining that, so the school knows.
Do we need to upload tax documents even though they are non-US taxes?
A lot of schools will require that use profile will require tax documents. So whether that's submitting them through IDOC or submitting them directly to the school, yes, you will submit them. In a lot of cases, they may want you to have the information translated to US. They should let you know whether they need that or they will do that themselves when they get it.
What can I do if I do not know the actual market value of properties?
I guess what we try to tell people is, if you were going to sell it today, how much would you expect to get for it? And that's what you should use for that value.
What qualifies as a business? Does a small family business qualify?
Yes, it does. Yep.
What is the difference between students' expected income and other expected tax income?
So students' expected income is what they expect to receive from, so there's two things. There's earnings, so by working what they think they might earn, and then there's other untaxed income, like if there's other income or benefits they expect to receive from some other support. So those are kind of the two pieces there. Just make sure you don't double count them. I mean, really, as long as they're counted in one field or the other, that's the most important piece.
If I need to clarify any parts of my CSS profile, such as retirement funds, but it does not match any options on that special circumstance page, where should I add it?
I'm sorry, if you need to clarify, was it?
Any parts of my CSS profile, such as retirement funds, but it does not match any options.
Just for the special circumstance, if that's the case, just check the other box. And you can, for the special circumstances, just so you can access that free-form text, just check other and indicate the information. So there's a lot of different things people might put in that special circumstance that doesn't fit one of those categories.
Can we submit the CSS profile before the university application?
Yes.
And the last question, see here. Oh no, we have more. What documents should I upload? Well, that's part of that question.
Yeah, and that's really going to be for the profile, you don't need to upload any documents. You just submit the profile. Schools may require documents, and you need to find out from each school what they require.
If my parents are married and live together, do I just have to fill out the one profile with that data for both parents?
Yes. Yep. It'll include both the data for both parents. Yes.
What if my parents earn US dollars because their company pays them in US dollars, but all our monthly payments and costs are in the country's currency? Should I still report everything in my country's currency and make a note at the end of my parents' earning to US dollars?
That's completely up to you what you want to do. Just, you can, if it's easier to report everything in US dollars because that's what the earnings are, you can report in US dollars. Just make sure that you report your income and your assets in US dollars. So just go one way or the other, whichever is easier. Just make sure everything, income and assets, are all reported in the same currency.
And our last question, should we put our address in English translation, example, 50 meters west of the central bank, yellow house, or should we put it in the original language of Spanish, for example?
That's not a question I've been asked before. It's usually whatever the postal address would be that you would use to have something mailed to you is what you want to do. So if you were having someone from the US mail something to you, that's the address that you would use.
I will weigh in that one.
Thank you.
Sometimes if you write down the address in English and the postal office will get confused or lost and your mail will not even sometimes get there. So that is something that I will advise. Write it in the language of origin that the country that you live in. It's preferable than translating it because you don't know where your mail might end up. Right.
I have to agree. Just based on addresses I've seen, I would say yes.
This is an interesting one. Just one last one, Sarah. I'm sorry. What if I don't have my biological father's last name? Does he have to fill out the information?
Yes. If he's your biological father, it doesn't matter if you have, if he has your name or you have his name or not. If he's your biological father, then you would want him to complete, or you would need him to complete the information unless there's some other extenuating special circumstance.
And most financial documents, must they be translated, right? I guess they should.
Yes, most of them do.
All right. Okay, so I guess we do not have any more questions. This has been quite insightful for all of our international community and even the advisors that we have joining us from throughout the region today. It has been quite informative learning about all the different aspects and sections and how careful you really have to be when it comes to filling out the CSS profile, especially if you're applying for financial aid in, to any of the universities at this point. So thank you so much, Sarah,
Absolutely,
for joining us today and providing so much information, so insightful. I learned a lot, and I'm pretty sure our students did as well. I'm pretty sure they will tackle and master this, filling and completing it successfully. And just for everyone here in our webinar, you can reach out to the Education USA office advisors in your country if you have more questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you out with, how to apply to different colleges and universities in the US. It will be our pleasure. All right. So thank you again, Sarah. And,
thank you.
You're welcome. Just last one announcement. I want to share with the students right now with us today. Next October 13th, tackling the graduate admissions interview at 4 p.m. CST. So if you are, for example, applying to a graduate program in the US or institution, do you know what requirements are needed? This session will go ahead and talk about all how to do this, and how to master this part. On October 20th, undergraduate standardized testing, what to expect, all right? And last but not least, we have on the 28th, nailing the undergrad admissions interview. So I want to invite all of you guys here today to join our regional webinars every Wednesdays at 4 or 3 p.m. CST, and we'll be more than happy to help you guys. Again, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all my colleagues in the background, our regional webinars team and advisors throughout the region. It's our pleasure to help you and collaborate with each and every one of you guys. Thank you and have a great evening, everyone.